My name is Ethan Holloway. I'm 38, an architect. My job is to make sure buildings don't collapse. I guess I should have done more inspections at home because that night on the rooftop, my marriage started crumbling in real time. Claire and I have been together 5 years, married 3. That's long enough to know how a person laughs, how they order their coffee, how they pick fights. It's also long enough to realize when they've checked out and are just sticking around for the benefits. It was Aaron's birthday. He'd rented a rooftop bar, nothing fancy, string lights hanging like fake stars, a Bluetooth speaker blasting a playlist, some finger food lined up on folding tables. A mix of friends and co-workers were milling around, laughing, already tipsy. I walked in straight from work, still in my office clothes, grabbed 2 drinks, club sodas, because I figured Claire might actually want one, and headed over to where I spotted her near the railing. She wasn't alone. There was Dylan, the new guy at her office, the one whose name I'd been hearing way too often lately, always wrapped in some funny story from work. She stood angled toward him, shoulder practically brushing his, head bent over her phone as if she was auditioning for the role of woman with secrets. He laughed at something on the screen. She laughed too, a little louder than needed. I stopped in front of them, held out the glass. "Drink?" She took it without looking at me. "Thanks." No smile, no pause. "This is my husband," she said after an awkward beat. That was it. No name, no warmth, just husband, the way you identify luggage at the airport. "Dylan," he said. Quick handshake, already halfway turned back toward her. I nodded, watching the scene. I'd met plenty of her co-workers before. None of them ever treated me like the invisible man. They went right back to their screen laughing. I stood there like the +1 at my own marriage. I asked, just to break the wall, "How's the quarter looking at work?" Claire waved a hand as if brushing away a fly. Dylan answered for her, rattling off something about deadlines and campaigns. She smiled at him, touched his sleeve like he'd just solved world peace. I took a step back, gave them space, tried to act casual. Across the rooftop, a couple of Aaron's friends were watching. One raised his eyebrows at me. I pretended not to see it. If I reacted, I'd be the villain of the evening. Fine, I thought, try again later. I made small talk with a few people I knew, grabbed a bite from the sad-looking food table, chatted with Aaron about his new project. All the while I could see Claire over by the railing, still glued to Dylan, still tilting her phone his way like a lighthouse beam, still laughing like she hadn't laughed with me in months. After a while, I figured I should try again. Show up, make an effort, give her a chance to remember she's married. I walked back over, caught the tail end of Dylan telling some boring story about a co-worker's dog. I said, "So Claire, are we going to have a conversation tonight? Or should I just ask Dylan to fill me in on our marriage too?" That's when she turned, her face tight, and fired it off. "If you're jealous, you can leave." No smile, no hint of humor. Just flat, sharp, and loud enough that people nearby froze mid-sentence. You could feel the air shift. I set my glass down on the table next to me, carefully, like I didn't want to be accused of slamming it. I looked at her, then at him, said nothing. Because honestly, what was there left to say? Then I walked away. I found Aaron again, nodded through his stories about his weekend trip. Outwardly calm, inwardly replaying that one sentence. It wasn't out of the blue. It was the climax of months of changes. Claire putting her phone face down at dinner, setting new passwords, coming home late with vague excuses, snapping at simple questions. Tonight just made the subtext bold. I stayed another 40 minutes, forced a few smiles, talked with people I actually liked. But in the back of my mind, a quiet checklist had started writing itself. When I finally left, I passed by the railing again. Claire was still there with Dylan, still laughing like nothing had happened. Neither of them moved aside. Neither paused their conversation. I took the stairs down. On the landing, 2 of Aaron's friends caught up to me. They didn't ask anything real, just threw in some small talk about sports and the weather. I let them. Nobody wants to be part of the drama. Outside, I waited for the ride. Claire came out a minute later, voice bright like nothing had been said. She narrated the view, the guest list, the quality of the bruschetta, and I nodded as if she were telling me about a TV episode I decided not to finish. In the car, her screen lit her face the way a campfire does when you're telling a story you don't want to end. She angled it away from me out of reflex. It used to sting. Tonight, it was a measurement. At home, she kicked off her heels and went straight to the bathroom. I put the keys in the dish, wallet on the counter, poured water, and took inventory. Living room unchanged. Kitchen clean. The air different. Not because of what had happened, because of what I had finally stopped negotiating with. When she came out, she asked, "Still bothered by the party?" "We'll talk tomorrow," I said, not a delay tactic. A way to make sure I didn't spend words I wanted to keep. She shrugged like I'd misplaced a pen and went to bed early. I made a short list on an index card because pens and cards don't gaslight you. Copy lease. Move clothes to gym locker. Secure mail. Schedule attorney consult. Information only. There's a dignity in small, accurate verbs. Sleep didn't come easy. In the morning, over coffee, I asked her, "Do you realize how what you said sounded last night?" She shrugged. "It was fun. You should relax more. I'm not talking about the party. I'm talking about you telling me to leave." She rolled her eyes. "You're too sensitive." "I want clarity," I said. "We'll figure it out," she muttered, scrolling her phone. That was all the clarity I needed. I didn't answer. I wasn't interested in being her audience. Claire acted like she hadn't just tried to humiliate me in front of 30 people. She made coffee, scrolled her phone, and hummed to herself while I stared at the kitchen wall. The night before hadn't been an outburst. It had been a message. I went through my own routine, checked my calendar, rescheduled 2 calls, and packed my gym bag. On the drive to work, I caught myself doing the math. How many clothes I could move without her noticing, how long it would take to shift my files, what order to change accounts in. When I got home that evening, she breezed in an hour late. No text, no explanation. "Had drinks with the team," she said, tossing her bag on the couch. "We were celebrating hitting a deadline." "Which one?" I asked. She blinked, like I'd just asked for state secrets. "Why do you always need details?" "Don't worry about it." "I'm not worried," I said flatly. "Rigid," she muttered, grabbing her phone again. I didn't answer. I was already elsewhere in my head, writing another list. Change mailing address, move documents to safe storage, find attorney. Each line steadied me. Over the next week, her behavior played out like a rerun I'd already memorized. Phone glued to her hand, flipped screen every time I walked by, laughter into group chats I wasn't part of, a sudden interest in late nights at the office that didn't seem to leave her tired, just more absent. At a dinner with her family, her mother smiled at me across the table. "You should let her breathe, Ethan. A man shouldn't hold a wife back." Her sister chimed in. "Yeah, independence is important. Couples your age need time with friends." I nodded politely, like someone being handed a pamphlet for a religion they weren't planning to join. "We're managing our schedules," I said, and left it there. On the drive home, Claire smirked. "See? They get it. You should learn to relax." "I understand their view," I replied, "but I still want clarity about ours." She rolled her eyes, turned back to her phone and said, "You're impossible sometimes." That was fine. Impossible was better than invisible. By the end of that week, my bag at the gym held more than just workout clothes, 2 shirts, jeans, sneakers, a small toiletries kit. At work, my bottom desk drawer carried spare essentials. Insurance cards and my passport were tucked into a folder only I had access to. No speeches, no ultimatums, no raised voices, just quiet steps. One evening I asked directly, "Claire, is there someone else?" She looked up from her phone, deadpan. "You're paranoid. You need to work on your trust issues. Trust depends on consistent behavior," I said. She snorted. "God, stop making drama." That was the moment I realized we were done talking. Drama wasn't the problem. Her contempt was. So I went silent. And once I did, everything got clearer. A week later, there was silence. Claire's tone settled into that breezy, untouchable register she uses when she believes she's winning. I answered with the only thing that has ever worked for me: structure, morning runs, work, small, boring tasks that add up to distance. If anyone ever asked how separation starts, tell them it begins with a drawer. One you stop sharing. Monday, she posted a boomerang of clinking glasses with the caption, "Best team." Dylan's sleeve was there, corner frame. Wednesday, she told me she'd be out late and didn't ask if I needed the car. Thursday, she forgot to mention a friend's birthday she suddenly had to attend. Friday morning, my phone buzzed with Aaron. "Coffee after work?" I said yes. We kept it practical. We always have. We sat by the window of a small cafe we like, the one with good light and a barista who doesn't punish you for not remembering the origin story of every bean. Aaron asked once, "You okay?" He didn't need a transcript. "I'm fine," I said. He nodded, then started talking about a client rollout and the part of his shoulder that keeps pretending it's 22. We laughed. It felt like real air. I stayed an extra 20 minutes after he left because I wanted quiet. That wasn't our kitchen. I answered 2 work emails, read the news, then closed the laptop. My reflection in the glass looked like a man who had walked out of a loud room and decided to keep walking. It suited me. I pushed my chair back and stood. I turned toward the door, and that's when I saw them, Claire and Dylan, by the window, 2 tables away from where I'd been sitting. I don't believe in fate. I believe in layouts. We'd been in the same cafe for 20 minutes. And didn't know it because the room had enough quiet corners to keep people separate until it didn't. They were angled toward each other in that new couple lean, a shallow V that closes over time. Claire's laugh was soft, private, different from the rooftop volume. Dylan said something, put his finger lightly on the rim of her cup, drew a small circle on the cardboard sleeve. She tilted her head. Hair fell forward. She didn't push it back. It was a picture people take when they want to remember feeling wanted. I didn't move. He touched the edge of her phone with his knuckle, and she smiled like the phone and the man were part of the same sentence. Her wedding band was there, of course. She hadn't bothered to hide it. It just didn't seem to belong to our house anymore. For a second, I tried to decide whether she saw me. It's amazing how much explanation you can pour into a glance. Did she register my shape in the glass? Did she choose not to? Honestly, it didn't matter. The point wasn't what she knew. The point was what I finally stopped pretending not to know. I could have walked over. People do. They introduce themselves to the third person in their own story and make speeches that end with someone clapping on Instagram. I have a different religion. Mine has one commandment. Don't audition for roles you don't respect. So I left. Not in a hurry. No dramatic scrape of chair legs. I stood long enough that the image would stay in the kind of memory that doesn't get edited later. Then I pushed the door open and let it shut behind me. The air outside wasn't cleaner. I was. I have never enjoyed the taste of vindication, but I do like clarity. It has fewer calories. Halfway down the block, my phone buzzed. A photo from Claire. A high shot of a latte with a foam heart, captioned fuel. No faces, no table number, not even a location tag. She was careful, which was adorable, considering how many people in that room had eyes. I put the phone away. I didn't answer. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that some messages are addressed to the sender. That night she came home late, sugar sweet. "We grabbed coffee after work," she said. Dylan needed help planning a venue thing. She didn't look at me when she said it. She opened the fridge, bent at the waist, studied our leftovers like a museum curator. "How's the venue?" I asked. She shut the door with her hip. "You wouldn't know it. It's industry, right." I rinsed my cup. Industry. She smiled at her phone. "Don't start." Wasn't starting. Then what are you doing? Finishing, I said, though I doubt she heard it over her notifications. The weekend was a parade of normal. Groceries, laundry, a quick stop to pick up the package she had shipped to my name because mine always arrives faster. She thanked me with a kiss on the cheek that landed like a memo. Sunday night, she posted a story about self-care, a shot of a bath, and a book she would not read. I spent 30 minutes making a list with times next to each line. Everything worth doing in real life can be written with numbers. Monday, I called in a personal day and used it like a scalpel. I sat across from an attorney in a small, bright office that smelled like new stationery. He asked clean questions. I gave clean answers. He drew a map I could follow with my eyes open. It wasn't drama. It was process. When I left, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like a man who had put the right wrench on the right bolt and turned. Noon, I stopped by a storage place and bought a small lockbox that fits exactly where I needed it to fit. Afternoon, I moved a few more things to the gym bag. A second pair of jeans carefully folded so they wouldn't wrinkle like a confession, a charger, 2 notebooks. Claire texted, "Happy Hour Friday?" I said, "What time?" She said, "Not sure yet." Translation, pencil me in for whenever you're least convenient. At dinner, I tried one last ordinary boundary. 20 minutes, no phones, I said, just dinner. It wasn't a trap, it was a chance. She lasted 5. "I need to coordinate plans," she said, like logistics is a deity she must honor. "Got it," I said. "Consider them coordinated." She studied me for the first time in weeks. "You're being weird." "I'm being quiet," I said. "It's new for us." Tuesday, she came home after midnight. "Phone died," she said, as if batteries are mythical creatures that disappear under stress. I asked for a heads up next time. Saturday afternoon, I saw the first crack in her crowd control. One of her closest friends untagged herself from a throwback album Claire had reposted with a long caption about independence. The comment count was shorter than usual. It turns out, support has an attention span. That night, Claire asked, too casually, "Are you coming to Haley's birthday?" Haley is someone I'm always expected to like. "Sure," I said. I wanted to see the way information behaves in a room. If she repeated the line from the rooftop with the same confidence in the same kind of crowd, then it wasn't a mistake. It was a script. The party was exactly the kind of thing Claire breathes. Cocktails, ambient lighting, the host who lives for phrases like curated vibe. I followed the polite circuit. "Hello, how are you?" "I'm fine." Claire floated. Dylan arrived. He and Claire didn't cling, which is a kind of intelligence. She gave me a 20-minute window and then drifted toward him, like a planet that had already chosen its orbit. Someone asked me about work. I talked about a clean retrofit on an old building and the way you hide reinforcement so the original shape doesn't feel betrayed. They said, "Wow, that's like relationships." And I nodded like I hadn't been living inside that sentence for months. Near the end of the night, we were standing in a small group by the kitchen, chatting casually. Someone mentioned restaurants, and I brought up the place Claire and I had gone to a few months back. I barely finished my sentence before she cut me off. "No, that's not when we went." "You're wrong," she said loudly, with a laugh that wasn't friendly. It was sharp, the kind that invites other people to laugh at you, not with you. It was such a small detail that didn't matter at all, but she made sure everyone around us heard it. The group went quiet. A couple of people looked down at their plates, pretending not to notice. I didn't argue. I just smiled. Not because it was funny, but because I finally felt sure about something. She wasn't on my side anymore. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. She wanted to put me down in public, and once you see that clearly, there's nothing left to debate. On the drive home, she tried to bait me. "You've been quiet." I didn't have anything useful to add, I said. "God, you're exhausting." "And yet," I said, "here we are." 2 days later, the couple was spotted again in a cafe, but not by me. A friend texted me, "I might have seen Claire with the new guy near your office." Not my business. Just thought you should know, I wrote back. Thanks. The next morning, I woke up before the alarm. The apartment was so still, it sounded like it was waiting. I made coffee and stood in the doorway of the bedroom. Claire slept face down, phone under the pillow like a talisman. I didn't feel love or hate or any of the poetry people swear by. I felt practical. There is dignity in admitting a thing is over before the calendar does it for you. Over breakfast, she scrolled while I ate. Don't forget Haley's after dinner on Thursday, she said. I won't forget anything, I said. That evening, I took a slow lap through our apartment. I opened drawers and shut them like a person considering the weather. I decided how many suits could be carried without looking like I was moving an entire life in one trip. When Claire texted, "Running late," I wrote back, "Noted." She sent a selfie from a bar. I didn't recognize the tile behind her. It's fascinating how carefully people can crop. That night I slept well, the kind of sleep that comes when the next steps aren't vague anymore. In the morning, I ran in the dark, turned at the same lamppost I always do, and decided not to stop for the extra block I hadn't earned. Back home, I showered, dressed, and laid out what I needed in order of use. Keys, wallet, phone. It's not ritual, it's readiness. Claire padded into the kitchen in socks, hair messier than usual. "Coffee?" she asked. "Already had it," I said. She yawned theatrically. "You're in a mood." "I'm in a plan," I said. She blinked. "What does that even mean?" "You'll see," I said, and I meant it in the least dramatic way possible. The day she told me on a rooftop that if I was jealous I could leave, I started thinking about evacuation routes. The day I watched her in a cafe laugh like no one was watching, I stopped thinking and started counting. This week, I stopped counting and started doing. People love to call it overreacting, but this is the opposite. It is the exact size of the problem measured in actions. When Claire tried to talk later that night, "Are we good?" I said, "We're clear." She nodded, like clarity was a synonym for yes. It isn't. It's the end. Claire texted Friday afternoon. "Out with the team tonight. Don't wait up." Perfect. I got home, dropped my bag, and opened the closet. I was making piles. Take, leave, irrelevant. Shirts folded, jeans stacked, toiletries lined up in a neat row. It wasn't dramatic. It was just logistics. I walked through each room with my phone, snapping photos, living room, kitchen, bedroom, not for memory, just for evidence. If she tried to rewrite the past, I'd have receipts. By 8, 2 suitcases and 1 duffel were lined by the door. The things I'd owned before her. The things that were mine without debate. Everything else, she could keep it. Call it a donation to the woman who thought husband was a punchline. By 9, I was in the new place. A small studio, bare walls, mattress on the floor, 1 lamp, empty but honest. 4 walls that didn't hold contempt. I sat on the mattress and exhaled. First breath in months that didn't feel borrowed. I texted 2 people. To my brother, "I moved. Don't worry, I'm fine." To Aaron, "All good. Coffee next week." That was enough. No speeches, no explanations. At 11:43, the phone lit up. "Where are you?" I didn't reply. 11:57, "Did you seriously just leave?" 12:22, "Wow, real mature. You can't even talk to me? 1:04 a.m.? You're being ridiculous. We can fix this if you just answer." By morning, the tone had shifted. "Ethan, please, let's just talk. Don't do this." I set the phone face down on the table. Silence is underrated. At 10, I sent 1 short email to her work address. "For anything related to the apartment, please coordinate with the office. I won't discuss it directly." That was the only sentence she got from me. Short, clear, final. While she spammed my phone with a rotation of blame, jokes, and sudden affection, I boiled pasta in a cheap pot in my new kitchen. 1 burner, 1 pan, 1 plate. Simple. Quiet. Mine. Claire didn't give up quickly. People like her rarely do. By Sunday morning, she'd moved past direct texts and started working the circle. Aaron sent me a screenshot. Claire asked if I've seen you. Wants to talk. I replied, tell her the same thing I told her. Through the office only. Aaron sent back a thumbs up. No commentary. That's why we're still friends. Her mother called once. Then an email arrived from Claire. My mom's worried. You could at least answer her. I wrote back, this is between us. Please don't involve family. Cold, precise. The kind of sentence you can't argue with because there's nothing to twist. On Instagram, Claire posted a story. A selfie with puffy eyes and the caption, some people just walk away without even trying. The sympathy comments rolled in. I didn't bother defending myself. Anyone worth keeping already knew the truth. Anyone else could enjoy the drama she curated for them. Monday, she switched tactics again. A long email this time, full of paragraphs. It started with, you've misunderstood everything, and ended with, we can start fresh. In between, there were jokes, nostalgia, and one sudden accusation. Maybe you're seeing someone else. That's why you left so fast. I didn't respond, deleted it. That night, I cooked my own dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and vegetables in the tiny pan I'd bought for the studio. It tasted better than any takeout we'd ordered in months. Freedom has a strange seasoning. By Wednesday, her tone had shifted again. You win. Happy? Then, fine. If that's what you want. Then, we could have had everything. Each message contradicted the last. I didn't answer any of them. Silence, it turns out, is bulletproof. Meanwhile, my life got quieter in the best ways. Morning runs became routine again. I actually read a book before bed instead of scrolling in the glow of her phone. At work, I was sharper, faster. Colleagues asked if I'd started some new productivity hack. I smiled and said, just cleaning up. One evening, a friend suggested grabbing drinks at the same cafe where I'd seen Claire with Dylan. I said yes. We sat by the window. I noticed she wasn't there, probably at another bar, rehearsing independence for her followers. For the first time in months, I didn't care where she was. The best part? No more waiting for the sound of the front door. No more glances at a phone that never pinged for me. Just quiet, predictable, steady, quiet. People think endings are explosions. They're not. They're paperwork, suitcases, keys in envelopes, and the sudden realization that you're breathing easier than you thought you could. Claire once told me, in front of everyone, if you're jealous, you can leave. She thought it was a jab. She thought I'd argue. She thought I'd stay. I left. Not because I was jealous, because I don't live where I'm disrespected. And that, finally, was clarity. The divorce wrapped up faster than I expected. Paperwork, signatures, a couple of short hearings where Claire tried to play the role of the abandoned wife. Judges don't care for theater, they care for facts. Claire leaned heavily on Dylan after I left. At first, it looked almost romantic. Her showing up on social media with him at bars, coffee shops, even a weekend trip she swore was work-related. He played the role of rescuer, the guy who swoops in with smiles and easy jokes. But rescuers get tired, especially when the person they're saving never stops needing a stage. Within months, the tone of her posts shifted. Fewer selfies with Dylan, more vague captions about trust and disappointment. People whispered that the office romance was more work than fun. Meanwhile, I kept it boring in the best way. Work, gym, new friends who didn't know Claire's name. My brother joked I looked younger. Aaron said I sounded lighter. They were both right. Occasionally, Claire tried to reach out, emails with subject lines like, "Can we talk?" or "You owe me at least a conversation." I never opened them. My attorney forwarded everything necessary, nothing more. The last time I saw her, months later, she was walking out of the same cafe where I'd once watched her with Dylan. He wasn't with her. She glanced at me, like she expected some spark of old recognition. I nodded politely, like you would at a stranger you've sat next to on a long flight. Then I kept walking, and honestly, that's the happiest ending I could have asked for.